Whether it's the classroom, whether it's movies, whether it's television, whether it's Disney World, whatever it is, the Marxist left seeks to destroy it and to have low IQ morons like Mika Brzezinski and others on TV acting like there's something wrong with DeSantis. DeSantis' position is the same as the position of virtually anybody who cares about how they raise their children. A corporation's job is to make money, to make products, to do services for people. Their job is not to try and replace the elected representatives of a state. So when you hear people say that DeSantis is not a conservative because he's trying to tell the private sector what to do, it's the other way around. These are state entities, public schools, the legislatures, and so forth. And if private entities, corporatists, who are completely woke, almost all Democrats and leftists, are going to use their resources, their grant power, like Zuckerberg did in Philadelphia and other cities and states with his $417 million. If you're going to try and influence the outcome of elections, but if you're going to try and influence the culture in a way that the people have not elected their representatives to do, then DeSantis will stand up to it the way Trump did. Asa Hutchinson will not and did not in Arkansas. Chris Christie will not and did not in New Jersey. Chris Sununu will not and did not in New Hampshire. So to then claim the conservative mantle is one that stands by while the Marxist left destroys our culture, destroys our classrooms, destroys our children, sexualizes them in elementary school, turns one race against another with critical race theory, this Marxist ideology, and so forth and so on. That's not conservatism. We're talking about government institutions being influenced by corporations. Moreover, Disney's had a good run for half a century. Basically, Disney was able to create its own city with its own firefighters, its own police force, its own tax base. Florida had no say. They had their own garbage service, everything. Zoning was decided by Disney. They didn't even have all the state environmental rules apply. The zoning rules apply. If they wanted to build something in a park, they just did it. No other corporation in Florida, no other corporation in any state in America had that kind of authority. So DeSantis looks at this and he says, what the hell, isn't it time to fix this? Here you are, a California-based corporation. You're making a fortune off our state and our people and the people who visit. You're trying to push sexualization of our children in the schools against the wishes of the elected representatives. You're also pushing critical race theory. You're pushing DEI and ESG while we're trying to fight it, the culture war, the battle. Well, we shouldn't continue to subsidize with taxpayer monies this corporation like no other corporation on the planet. And so they attacked DeSantis. You want governors, executives of your state who are going to fight this. The Democrats have in California, in New York, in Illinois, in New Jersey, in Rhode Island, in Massachusetts, name all the Democrat states, governors who institute and enshrine forever their ideology. From the classroom to Hollywood to their unions across the board. When you have a governor who stands up to this and fights it, that governor should be celebrated because he can do what the Christies and the Hutchinsons and the Sununus do, which is play around the edges on fiscal policy and so forth and go on TV and talk a good game. But it's quite another thing to fight this. And not only does DeSantis fight it, he's changed the politics of the state. Florida is a solid, bright red, apple red Republican state, where when DeSantis first won, he won by the skin of his teeth. Then he wins in a landslide because he profoundly altered the trajectory of Florida. And now, as a free state, people are escaping these blue states, whether it was the pandemic or whether it's going on now. The employees in the boardroom of Disney do not get to run the legislature and the school systems in the state of Florida. That is a profoundly conservative view. Go.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is escalating.
She can barely contain herself because she is a condescending nitwit who thinks she's an elitist, but she's not. Her snarkyism is just unbelievable. She and her husband, Joe, live in Jupiter, Florida. I know Jupiter well. We have a home in Jupiter, Florida. They live there almost the entire year and typically, if not always, do their show from there. See behind them? I think that's the Jefferson Memorial. They're not even close to Washington, D.C. Even if they were in studio, they'd be in New Jersey, where the studio is. But anyway, go ahead.
Political battle against Disney, Walt Disney World. Isn't that like one of their biggest employers in Florida?
Yeah,
got it. Yeah. And sort of what they do, tourism, right. At a news conference near Orlando yesterday, DeSantis outlined...
If they just did tourism, they wouldn't be having this issue. It is Bob Iger, a left-wing Democrat worth hundreds of millions of dollars, who secreted himself into the executive position at Disney, at ABC. He's actually created nothing. He's one of these corporate bureaucrats. He is a huge Democrat. He supports Biden, supported Obama, and so forth and so on. He's the one who has destroyed Disney. Destroyed it. And Disney is hurting because you've had enough. They're confiscatory prices just to get into a damn park. They're confiscatory prices on food and so forth and so on. You try and get a hotel on one of the parks. An average family can't afford this. I've told you before, I have a friend. 100% average means 3 little kids, 2 young girls and a boy. He and his wife went to Disney about 4 or 5 months ago, Disney World. 6-day vacation. I think it was $12,000. $12,000. They're not doing anybody any favors. Go ahead.
His next moves vowing to nullify an agreement that allows the amusement park to circumvent his newly appointed state board.
What happened was at the 11th hour, Iger and the boys thought they would get clever. They pulled in their corporate lawyers. They tried to get around the board that the state has set up to run that area, because it is a part of the state now, not a country on its own. And they basically abolished that board and created their own board and so forth. And Jonathan Turley wrote a long piece. Others have written very serious pieces and said that's not going to fly. You know, that's amateur hour. But NBC News, Mika Brzezinski, amateur hour is their middle name. So they grabbed onto this as a big deal. It's not a big deal. It just shows you that Bob Iger is a fool. And the shareholders at Disney ought to consider a class action suit against Iger and the board of directors of the Disney Corporation and the Umbrella Corporation. I'm quite serious. And hold them to account for the significant loss in value of their shares. If he wants to play politics, he can play politics on his own with his own money, but he's not supposed to destroy Walt Disney's creation. Walt Disney would be disgusted by all of this. Go.
DeSantis then suggested the idea of developing land next to the park, which he says could include a state park.
The reason is it's state land. The state owns the land. They let Disney use it. They let Disney do whatever Disney wanted to do. So if that's the kind of power you have as a corporation with respect to the state, on taxation, regulation, zoning, environmental, all the rest of it, why would you get involved in all this woke crap? Why would you do that? Just mind your business and do your job. That's right, Mika, tourism. Go.
A rival amusement park, or even a state prison. He also floated the idea that the board could look into raising its tax rates, a move that would result in more costs for Disney. The feud started...
God forbid. It's the one corporation in America they defend is Disney because of their viewpoints. Any other company that makes firearms and ammunition, that needs to be destroyed. Any company that makes things that they don't like needs to be destroyed. But when it comes to Disney, because of Iger, because of the wokeness, the Democrat Party is 100% behind them. So are the media. Go ahead.
A year ago, after Disney came out against Florida's parental rights in education bill, which banned classroom instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity in lower grades.
Wait a sexual identity and orientation in lower grades. Isn't that a good thing to ban that? Can't they get a little older before you teach them that stuff? No, we got to get right to them at 7 years old. Well, I don't agree with that, do you? But Disney does. Disney. You see the statue there of Walt Disney holding Mickey Mouse? He's not holding a transgender Mickey Mouse. He's not promoting transgenderism. He's not promoting anything. This is wholesome, ethical, moral fun, which they're trying to destroy. Whether it's the classroom, whether it's movies, whether it's television, whether it's Disney World, whatever it is, the Marxist left seeks to destroy it. And to have low IQ morons like Mika Brzezinski and others on TV acting like there's something wrong with DeSantis. DeSantis' position is the same as the position of virtually anybody who cares about how they raise their children. Go ahead.
DeSantis has since announced plans to expand the ban to all grade levels, which doesn't require legislative approval. So we could have a conversation about that, or about, talk about like stepping on a rake, getting in a fight with your largest employer.
It's also just, it's starting to get a little weird. I mean, and feel a little personal. Like, if,
deeply.
you know, deeply. You're in a fight.
Never mind. I don't know who she is, and I don't really care what she has to say. In fact, there's a waitress at the diner I go to. It makes a lot of sense. They would be putting her on MSNBC, but they won't because she's conservative.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.